Hi everyone and welcome to the November edition of Wavelength. As the ceremonial shovels broke ground for the new Lost Pines 1 power project, earth was already being moved as construction on the 540 megawatt gas-fired unit got underway here in Bastrop. A large group of dignitaries, staff, and friends gathered in the shadow of the Sim-Gideon power plant to listen to some music, some speeches, share a meal, and celebrate this milestone for Bastrop County, Calpine Corporation, and the LCRA.
This project brings together Calpine and Gentex LCRA's generation arm in a unique partnership, a partnership between an entrepreneurial company on the one hand and a highly respected public agency on the other. And it is bringing out the best in both of our companies and groups.
This artist rendering of Lost Pines 1 shows the finished project, but it is the technology housed inside that will make this an economical, environmentally friendly power plant. It's a combined cycle power plant. Here's how it works. There are two natural gas-powered turbines similar to a jet engine which generate 170 megawatts of electricity each. The 1,000-degree hot air exhaust from these turbines is funneled to a boiler system to produce steam. This steam then powers another generator capable of producing an additional 200 megawatts for a total of 540 megawatts of electricity. This heat recycling makes the process much more efficient than conventional gas-fired plants.
It is clean. I think many of you have heard there was a nice ad that ran in the Austin paper last week that talked about the fact that this plant and the new plant together will put less emissions in the air than what this one does right now. Not to say this one's that dirty, it's burning natural gas, which automatically means it's in good shape, but it can get even better, and I applaud that the LCRA has made that commitment on this power plant to get that down. I think that is a real plus, and as Mark mentioned in his comments, sets the bar for everybody else.
It has been 11 years since the LCRA built a generating unit. The last was Unit 3 at the Fayette Power Project in LaGrange, which burns western coal as a fuel. It came online in 1988. So now LCRA engineers and plant employees are gearing up for the new construction.
We've got the air permit in record time. We've got the contract awarded to Zachary for construction of the plant on schedule. And that took a whole lot of work on both our part and Calpine's as well as Zachary's, and we're real excited about getting things started.
This new plant will go a long way in meeting the ever-increasing demand for electricity in Central Texas.
We go forward with this thought. Those institutions that are successful in the future will be those institutions who know how to honor their past. You don't honor your past by living in it. You honor your past by understanding it and then taking that and shaping your vision going forward. So therefore, LCRA proposes rules on Lake Travis when folks would rather not talk about rules on Lake Travis. LCRA has folks talk about 100 years worth of water when they'd really rather be talking about the price of their Dell stock. LCRA talks about public power, throwing in the towel and paying taxes and playing the game like the rest of the industry, because after all, if you're going to ask for the right to go out there and compete, then you have to play by the same rules that everyone else plays. And LCRA forms partnerships because it's simply not prudent for a public organization to take the kind of risk. And then last but not least, the LCRA has a general manager who has the keen understanding to know that the sun is shining and it's time to be quiet. And so with the sun coming out, with that history behind us, we go forward to the next century. And I'm absolutely confident that the LCRA will be as successful in the future as it has been in the past because of people like you in this room. If we want Texas to be great, Texas will be great. Thank you.
Lost Pines 1 power project is scheduled to be complete in June of 2001.
On October 7th, 1999, at exactly 6:31 p.m., An event took place that changed the future of the LCRA and the city of Austin. It was on that date and time that the LCRA signed a contract with the city to provide water for the next 50 years with an option to take it even further. Now, the signing of the contract ends a lengthy process that had all the drama of, well, all the drama of a story about Texas and water.
In Texas, if you have water, you've got a future. Austin now has both. There is no question that the Austin economy is on the move, and with it comes a thirsty population. Right now, the city uses about 143,000 acre-feet of water, but that is expected to more than double in the next 50 years.
Now, although the city of Austin does have significant water rights, it would be impossible for it to meet its future water demands. That's because the city of Austin has what's known as run-of-the-river water rights.
Before the dams were built on the river, the city drew water from the Colorado River. That's essentially what they have the right to do today. The bad news is that the river is unpredictable, and there would be many days each year when there would likely not be enough water for the entire city.
And that's precisely why the city of Austin must rely on stored water for their future growth. And that's exactly where the Highland Lakes enter the equation.
Long before most folks who call Austin home today were here, the LCRA built dams along the river. Today, Lake Travis and Lake Buchanan act as sort of a water bank to maintain a consistent supply of water running throughout the river. The cost of building and maintaining the dams and reservoirs is the responsibility of the LCRA, and it recovers those costs through water sales, and that's what the city is paying for.
There are so many significant things about this agreement that it's impossible to list them all. But certainly, some of the key ones include:
Austin gets a secure water supply at a known price. The agreement has the seal of approval from the Senate Bill 1 task force, which will become even more important when the legislature reconvenes. River flow rates will be maintained to protect the Gulf's estuaries. LCRA can pay off debt associated with the purchase of the Garwood District, and it leaves plenty of water in the lakes for other customers. We asked Waterco's Paul Thornhill, who worked relentlessly for 2 years on the deal, to explain why this was the right time for both the city of Austin and the LCRA.
So really they have a 100-year supply of water with this single contract. Very few other cities have that. They've also locked in the cost of that water in two ways. They've prepaid for the reservation fee for that water for the duration of the contract, which we estimate would be about 50 years. And then they've also prepaid us for all of their use of water for approximately the next 21 years. So what they've done with that is lock in rate certainty.
Although the city and the LCRA had been working on the details of the contract for a long time, Thornhill explained why there was a sense of urgency in getting it signed now.
If the city had chosen not to enter into this contract, for example, and we had been forced then to tell the world, tell the legislature and the Water Development Board and others that this water was available, then I think none of us really knew what the legislature might do with that. Under Senate Bill 1, the legislature has the right to take surpluses from certain areas within the state and use that surplus water to make up for shortages in other areas. And in essence, this is where the water would have ended up had the city not entered into this agreement.
Austin City Manager Jesus Garza says the contract strengthens the relationship that the LCRA and the city have had for many years.
I think it strengthens it in many, many ways. First of all, it took that 1987 agreement and extended many of the elements of it to the year 2050, and then extending them another 50 years beyond that with an option by either party. So I think that in terms of that relationship, it's going to be strengthened, and there may be other things that we work on together, on things that can benefit Central Texas and the city of Austin specifically, because we do have those two different missions. LCRA's mission is to ensure that the water and the river basin remain viable for our economy, viable for the people who live here, and we're very part and parcel of that. So we're very grateful to be able to get to the point we are and look forward to that relationship.
Now, the signing of the contract wasn't the only good news for people who rely on the Colorado River. Richard Gaylord has news that's bringing smiles back to the faces of anglers who trolled Town Lake for their fish.
Thanks, Pat. You know, urban anglers who fish these waters of Town Lake got some good news recently. The ban on eating fish caught here in Town Lake, which has been in place for over 10 years, has now been officially lifted. The Texas Department of Health initiated the consumption ban in the late 80s after traces of the pesticide chlordane showed up in fish samples taken from Town Lake. Chlordane, which was later banned by the EPA, was used extensively in the 1970s as a termite treatment around the foundations of new homes.
After we get the rainfall event, you'd get some of that runoff go into the street, into a storm sewer, and then end up in the lake. And once in the lake, it could be incorporated into the sediment and then slowly released. Little bugs would eat some of the sediment particles, and then the fish would eat those. So then you have the accumulation of that chlordane as it goes up the food chain up into the fish.
The LCRA collected fish samples again back in 1994, and those test results indicated that chlordane levels were much lower. And now, after the most recent test by TDH, they lifted the consumption ban.
I'm sure that the fishing on Town Lake will increase dramatically. I mean, it's nice if you work downtown, you're 3 minutes away from the lake, and there's so many folks that live and work in such close proximity to the lake that its use is going to go up dramatically.
There's more good news for the Colorado River. In LCRA's just released State of the River report, all areas of the river from the San Saba, Lake Buchanan region down to Matagorda Bay rate either good or excellent water quality.
This precious resource can change very rapidly. And so now a lot of our effort is into managing into the future, working with the City of Austin, make sure that their wastewater facilities have enough capacity. We're dealing with non-point source issues, which are now kind of becoming the forefront as that next black cloud on the horizon, and what's the best way to manage that non-point source runoff, try to prevent it from making it into the lakes, and try to protect this river for generations to come.
It's been 1 year since the Environmental Learning Center at McKinney Ruffs was officially opened, and that was good reason to have a party. The party was as unique and creative as the landscape. There was a music and puppet show about protecting the environment, a wild painting area where pumpkins and kids alike were transformed into works of art.
If you would like to walk on down to the...
And there were guided walks into the preserve where visitors could experience firsthand the beauty of the land and the wildlife. But perhaps Tyler Bills of LCRA's Tensco division had the best job of all, taking people up in the bucket truck high above the trees for a spectacular view of the area.
We've given rides out here to all the little kiddies and meeting a lot of people, scaring a lot of people.
You like it?
Oh yeah, I enjoy it. See a lot of expressions out of people once you clear the trees.
Betsy Carpenter, the center's director, has watched the popularity of McKinney Ruffs grow dramatically in its first year.
We've had a total of 17,880 visitors at McKinney Ruffs in the first year. A very large portion of that are teachers and children who have come here for workshops and then come here as a student group to have learning experiences in the meadows, the canyons, and along the river that we have here at McKinney Ruffs. And so it's a new experience for these teachers as well as the children to find a learning environment in nature.
McKinney Ruffs is located 17 miles east of Austin on Highway 71 in Bastrop County. Just look for the windmill.
Hydroelectricity truly was the power to make a difference in the Texas Hill Country following the completion of Buchanan Dam in 1937. This hydropower from the LCRA lit up many farms and ranches in Central Texas for the very first time. From 1937 to 1951, 6 dams were built on the Colorado River by the LCRA with a total of 13 hydro units, which account for over 240 megawatts of electricity. Today, hydro generation accounts for only about 5% of the LCRA's generation mix, with coal and natural gas-fired steam generation providing the bulk of the power. But hydroelectric generation is still very important to the LCRA because it's a clean, non-polluting source of electricity that is available at a moment's notice. Here's how a hydro unit works. Water flows from the reservoir through a large pipe called a penstock. The falling water strikes the blades of the water wheel, causing it to spin. The water wheel is connected by a turbine shaft which spins a generator, creating electricity. Hydro crews are currently overhauling Unit 2 at Mansfield Dam. Most of these parts are original equipment which has been operating since the dam was completed in 1941. That says something about how well these units have been maintained over the years.
We're replacing the water wheels with a new design that's more efficient. We're putting more copper in the generators. We're rewinding the generators so they can produce more power. Anywhere that we have an efficiency loss, we're trying to minimize it. We're putting paint in the penstocks and the scroll cases in the hopes at reducing friction losses there. But the main upgrade is probably going to be coming from the water wheel redesign and the replacement of the wicket gates. That's where we're getting our main power upgrades.
Moles expects that after the overhaul, Unit 2 will produce 38 megawatts of electricity. The most they have ever gotten out of it in the past is 33 megawatts. This is a special piece of equipment called a tailgate, which was designed and fabricated for this job by the folks at LCRA's Rail Fleet Maintenance Facility in Smithville. These gates are placed in front of the tail race where water flows out after spinning the water wheel. The tailgates will seal off the opening underwater so that work can be done below the generator on the bottom bearing and in the draft tube, which is below the level of Lake Austin.
Once again, this is one of those projects that crosses many lines of business. Of course, we at Genco fabricate them. We've got the people at Waterco that help us with the installation. And then we also have a couple of guys out of telecommunications that are dive support, Dave Hodgkins and Gary McKenzie, who we've worked with on numerous projects in the past, are doing the underwater work for us. So this is truly a one-company effort.
Oh, 60 degrees.
Gary McKenzie and Dave Hodgins not only handled the underwater installation of the gates, but they also did the inspection and preparation work days earlier. They used an air hammer and hand tools to remove concrete and debris from the dam surface where the tailgates will fit. This overhaul will take 8 months and is scheduled to be complete in June. It's the 10th unit out of 13 to be reconditioned and upgraded. This process will continue next at Wirtz and Starkey dams. The LCRA management team took their fish fry show on the road once again. This time they set up in LaGrange in Fayette County, home of LCRA's Fayette Power Project. Some 750 invited guests and elected officials from Fayette and surrounding counties came out to share some good food and visit with LCRA staff and board members.
The LCRA has been a mainstay for the people of Lee County. Of course, they serve Bluebonnet Electric, which is housed in Giddings, where the courthouse is for Lee County, and we just really enjoy a good relationship. They are always willing to help in any endeavor that we have that serves the people of Lee County, and it's just a real good relationship that we have.
And LCRA has been a good neighbor here. It's not always been that way. There's a lot of things that have happened in the past here in Fayette County, but I do believe that LCRA has got a great reputation now and is a great neighbor for all of the things that are going on here. There's always LCRA volunteers involved in all the activities and functions, and LCRA is very visible. Their employees are just part of the community, and I just can't be more proud of what LCRA means to this community.
The LCRA management host these events in different communities service area each fall and spring.
The people building a new power plant near Bastrop say it will keep the environment clean. With shovels in hand, members of Gentex Power and Calpine broke ground on the new Lost Pines power plant today. Now, when it's finished, this plant and the renovated Gideon plant nearby will produce less pollution than the current plant alone. The natural gas-fired power plant is expected to supply electricity to at least 250,000 homes. The $225 million project is expected to be complete in June of 2001.
Boating restrictions could soon be sailing towards Lake Travis. The LCRA is proposing some new rules after getting complaints about noise, speed, and growing crowds. So tonight, the Lower Colorado River Authority is opening its doors and its ears to you. KB24's Shelton Green joins us now from Lake Travis Elementary, the site of tonight's public hearing. Lots of controversy expected there tonight, Shelton?
Well, Judy, it was actually the controversy that was that planned this meeting. The folks that you see behind me are actually the overflow from last week's meeting. They're sitting down. It's kind of an informal setting, sitting down with some of the LCRA staff to have their questions answered. And as you can imagine, there's lots of mixed reaction out here.
Bob Bitterly is not only a lake user, but a lake dweller who's witnessed firsthand some major changes on the waters of Lake Travis.
During the week, it's busier than it used to be on the weekends back in '88 and '89.
Bitterly's family plays in the shallows of Lake Travis in the shadow of his home, which is why he'd like to see a speed limit for boats.
I have a house on the lake, and I know we have the big boats coming through there at pretty high speeds.
Establishing watercraft speed limits is one of several recommendations handed down by the LCRA. The agency is proposing a 40-mile-per-hour daytime and a 20-mile-per-hour nighttime speed limit for boats. Watercrafts could be subject to a noise limit, and personal watercraft like jet skis could be restricted from operating on holidays and holiday weekends.
Over and over, people have said to us, well, it's just a matter of enforcement. Just hire more rangers and enforce. Enforce what? I mean, there are no rules.
And there won't be any rules, says the LCRA, until making sure they've heard from all sides.
There's a real good chance that what comes out at the end won't look exactly like what it looks like today. But I think there will be a set of rules put in place.
Now, this informal meeting is going to go on here from 5:30 until 6:30. Now, at 7 o'clock is when they're going to hear from the public here. That's going to last from 7 until 9 o'clock. We are here at the Lake Travis Elementary School on 620. You still have time to make it. Judy, back to you.
Very good, Shelton. And more public hearings are planned for next January, after which time the LCRA will revise the recommendations. The LCRA board votes on a finalized plan in February.
Well, that's it for this edition of Wavelength. Thanks for watching. On this most perfect fall day, we leave you with a spectacular view of Mansfield Dam. We'll see you next month.